Good evening and welcome. This is the first public hearing on the city manager's proposed budget. If you're speaking tonight, please speak clearly into the microphone. Please identify yourself, name and address. First person, actually at this moment, the one person signed up is Mr. Mark Cook. Sir, you have the floor.
Well, good evening. My name is Mark Cook. I'm a longtime resident of Norwich, here to ask you to support the Norwich Public Schools education budget without cuts. Norwich Public Schools has developed an initial budget that addresses the educational needs of our Norwich Public School students. And I say our Norwich Public School students because I strongly believe it's incumbent on every resident of Norwich to ensure we provide first-class educational opportunities to our fellow residents. And by doing so, we show a commitment to potential fellow residents and prospective investors that are looking to establish businesses in Norwich and raise a family in Norwich and buy a house in Norwich. One of the first things that people research is, well, what's the quality of the Norwich of the educational system of the towns that we're looking in? If we don't make that investment, we're not going to attract the investment. And we've been down a path where the school budget for Norwich Public Schools has been cut and minimized year over year. And I would just ask you to reflect on that and ask yourself, is it working? Is our community, is the city in a better place now than it was, say, 25 years ago? And if you have reservations about that, and if your conclusion is no, then I think it's time to change the strategy and to fully support the education budget and to attract those families and to attract those investors to the city. Thanks very much.
Thank you, sir. I'd always like to speak on the budget of the city of Norwich at this time. Sir, please.
Guy Palazzo. Should I state my address also?
Oh, please.
6 Harvard Terrace, Norwich. I'm a little ignorant here tonight. I think I missed one of the major meetings. I don't really know what was proposed. I know what's in my heart, so I can speak from that. Taxes are too darn high here. I believe in the education system, but more so with safety being first. I think this is a dead issue now. We already voted in the schools, but we're going to talk about what happens inside the 4 walls. That's not dead yet, right? We're still talking about that, I think. What we teach is so much more important than the building we teach it in. I went to Quest Diagnostics the other day and sat there for an hour. Nobody told me that they wouldn't see me that day. The lights went off at 5 o'clock, and a girl came out who spoke Spanish, a little bit English, and she said, are you waiting for, I said, well, I signed up on the kiosk here, and it said, your patient number 104, please take a seat. An attendant will come to see you. And she said, well, not today. You're a walk-in. I said, well, there's not a sign here that says no walk-ins after 4. Anyway, she handed me a piece of paper. She says, this is how you make an appointment. It's all in Spanish. And I thought, well, I guess that's okay. Am I wrong here thinking that we have to somehow educate the people that are coming here with our language? It's still our language, I think, the King's English, isn't it? These are like questions you could answer if you wanted to. That's one thing. So that's got to be a program. We have 6% non-citizens, I think about, in Norwich. Who knows what the percentages of people that don't speak fluent English? When I was in school, I had an option to take Spanish. Or was it required? I don't know. I didn't do very well at it. Obviously, this paper meant nothing to me. So, I mean, I think that within the four walls that we're going to build, let's make it mandatory that we have these new people that are coming in that want to be good, wholesome citizens learn English, and it's mandatory. Also, the music, the arts. My daughter runs the art house in Norwich. She constantly dedicates, 3 minutes are up?
Yes, but there's nobody here. Yeah, complete. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. So she constantly dedicates and gives of her time to the city. She loves the city. Her bills get paid. Papa and Mama pay them. But she dedicates everything to the city. She's just to the bully buses, everything she can. She has a heart as big as gold. The arts, she runs the art house. The arts bridge language barriers. You have to somehow make sure that that program is hefty in the schools, with music, with arts. There's hardly ever any argument or disagreement when you're talking to musicians and artists. They see things, they communicate in a way that goes beyond words. So I just, wish, take that into consideration. And I really wish that I had read the proposal from the city manager. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. And I'd like to speak to us, yes, Ms. Philbrook.
Good evening, Joanne Philbrook, 10 Elm Avenue. I'd like to... Sorry. Couple of things. First of all, I feel very uncomfortable. There's not a police officer in attendance tonight. I would strongly recommend that going forward, you have one here. Second of all, I feel your pain as I feel my pain. I look at you and I look at this. It's like you're having a party and you send out 100 invitations and you prepare the food, you clean the house, you want your guests to have a great time, you're so excited, and then nobody shows up. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where we are. Nobody wants to come to the party. I've been coming to this party for 20 years. I have sat through 20 budget seasons. I have sat through 3 or 4 as a member of the council. Your job is extremely difficult. You need to put your differences aside and come work to the common good. Not the common good of the Board of Education, not the common good of the Human Services Department, not the common good of the Cultural Coalition, the common good of all the citizens. I'm old. I will be having my 81st birthday in a couple of weeks. Damn, I'm old. And I've learned a lot. And as I was explaining to a couple of you earlier, my goal is not to criticize. My goal is to ask questions and learn and try and find a solution. The taxes in this city are friggin' ridiculous. And it would be one thing if we had amenities, but we have no amenities. We don't have a public safety complex. We don't have a community center. We don't have an aquatic center. We don't have, I can go on and on and on about all the things that we don't have. So where does the money go? I remember sitting in these chambers years ago when the Board of Education, and I made some snarky remarks about the teachers being glorified babysitters. That statement is even more true today. Teachers are no longer educators. If I may, Mr. Mayor. Teachers are no longer educators. They're glorified babysitters. From dusk to dawn, 7 days a week. There's a word for it. It's called enabling. If you never teach a child to walk, they will never learn how to run. So that the $100 million is ludicrous, because you know as well as I do that if you and we say to the Board of Education, okay, it's $100 million this year, next year, that's the starting. And it just keeps growing and growing and growing like a cancer. Like a cancer. Guy made I believe there are almost 1,000, I believe it's called multi-language learners in the city of Norwich. 1,000. Let that sink in. 1,000. I can no longer afford to support that. To be honest, I'm not sure I would have supported it in the beginning. I can't afford, as a senior citizen, to pay my taxes. Between my taxes, my utilities, and my homeowner's insurance, it's a mortgage payment. I can't afford it anymore, and I'm entitled, at my age, to have a certain quality of life. I don't know how you're going to make your decisions. I don't know where you're going to cut. But you're going to have to cut, and somebody's going to have to feel the pain, and the pain has to be shed and spread out amongst the employees, many of whom don't live in the city. And I'm sure that you're well aware, or maybe you're not well aware, but it's one of the things that really stuck in my craw, that certain employees of NPU receive a $3,500 cash bonus every year simply because they live in the city of Norwich. So my proposal to you is I want you to start paying me to live here. I mean, there's 100 of them. That's $350,000. So if you take everything into, I don't know where you're going to cut. And I guess it doesn't matter because nobody came. So how do we engage people? How do we get people to care? How? So it'll be interesting. You've got your work cut. Every year we hear the same thing. It's a difficult budget season, and every year it is a difficult, and every year it becomes increasingly more difficult. Somebody collectively, hopefully, you will always just say, you know what? It's too bad, so sad. This has got to go, this has got to go, this has got to go. Public safety is number one. Education, I will give you, is number two. But public safety has to be number one, because if people do not feel safe here, regardless of how good or bad the education system is, they will not come here. So thank you. Like I said, I don't envy you. I've been there, and it'll all work out. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address the council at this time? Anyone else like to address the council at this time? Would anyone else like to address the council at this time? Seeing no one else, I then declare the hearing closed. Thank you.